Well, welcome back to Mental Health Mondays with The Refuge. I'm Kathy Escobar, and I'm here with my friend Joanna Rainey from The Refuge and Mindful Member Care. And we are wrapping up today, season 2. So when we started this, we had no idea what it would look like. We just knew right when the pandemic hit that mental health was going to take a significant hit, and that we wanted to play our part. The Refuge is a Christian community and mission center really dedicated to healing community and social action. And we knew that we wanted to live out kind of our value of spaces that helped people find healing and hope and strength to keep going. And so this was our attempt to do that. And it's been fun. I love hanging out with Joe every week, and we have had so much fun with all these different guests, and we really have truly been blown away by the amazing people who have come on to just share a little bit of hope and some tools and some real life examples and some different parts of their stories related to the pandemic and their mix of therapists. That was all of season 1. And then today we're going to talk about season 2. It's a mix of therapists and spiritual directors, mental health sustainers, people in the trenches, walking alongside people. And then, like all of us, we're all in it in our personal story too. It's not like something happening out over there where they need something. We're all in this together. And our hope on this series has just been to gather what we need to keep making it.
Yeah, it's flown by. I can't believe it.
It's kind of sad. It's a lot of weeks.
It's a lot of weeks. But yeah, I'm grateful. This has been an unexpected gift for me in this season, just to have time with my friend every week and talk to our friends across the country and hear their hearts. And so yeah, looking forward to looking back and remembering who went and where and reflecting on that. Did you want to go like step by step?
Yeah, why don't I just do what we did last time we wrapped up season 1 is I'll just do a quick overview. Now, mind you, there was a lot in each person's piece, and we did our best to kind of keep them short and sweet, but sometimes we just kind of had a lot to say and like to engage with it in different ways. So they were kind of all different lengths. So all I'm going to do is just do a quick breeze through. And if you're listening for the first time, we would always just say, definitely go back. They're going to be there. They're not going to be gone. And I would say that they're all timeless for this season. Some of it won't apply, hopefully, a couple of years from now. But during this season, they all apply. But some things more than others, because we did try and not record a bunch and then share them, but to record them each week. And we did that really purposefully so that we could stay as current to the ever-changing climate. I mean, so many things changed and continue to change. And there are so many unknowns still. And so I'll just walk through these and it'll be fun. I'd love to hear. I'll just toss them out, Joe. And then maybe you can say, kind of what emerged for you in all of it. And then I'll kind of say, maybe a few takeaways, and then we'll wrap up season 2.
Sounds good.
Okay, so we started season 2 with our friend Angie Fatal. And so Angie is from Portland and just a dear sister to the Refuge, a spiritual director, meditative archer, and a space holder, and an activist. She's a community activist. And so one of the pieces that I love that she shared was just the idea of creating a mantra. And so kind of a breathing in and a breathing out, a rhythm in and a rhythm out. Something that we could hold on to. It looks different for every person. So my mantra, it won't be the same as yours. It's not a word to be afraid of. It's a sustaining and guiding tool to help us center and ground and gather peace. And so I love the idea of making our own mantra that we needed. And I've done a little bit of that over this season, just some things that helped me kind of remember And so that was the big idea there. It's just one little takeaway. Our friend Mark Whitney, who's a therapist here in Denver, talked about tiny habits. So just little things that we could do, little movements, micro movements that make a difference, because sometimes it's just so overwhelming. There's like these big shifts that we're expecting of ourselves, that we're supposed to be further along than we are. We're supposed to make this much of, the most of whatever, how we can. And just like little teeny ways of kind of staying present, drinking water, little things that look different for all of us, but those tiny habits that we know change us when we do them, and be really gentle with ourselves. Kelly Skoog is a therapist in Minnesota, Minneapolis, and this was right around in May, with the murder of George Floyd and the reality of just a big uprising that we're still going to be in forever, probably, in this season. And that her kind of coming and reminding us of the importance of the theme that comes in pretty much all of them, and that is self-compassion and kindness to ourselves in the middle of huge upheaval. So not just upheaval related to the pandemic, but also just social unrest and our response to that as people who care and advocates for justice and change in the world, and how all those worlds converge, and how important it is to acknowledge that. We also had our friend Scott McBean was with us from North Star Community Church, and connected to the National Association of Christian Recovery in Richmond, Virginia, is where he's hubbed. And it was really fun to talk to him just about the power of being accepted just as we are. And that as we do that, we can offer that to other people. And that's hard. And that's really easy to talk about and really hard to do. But that unconditional positive regard from Carl Rogers, from way back when, that stream is still here today. And that is such a helpful reminder and really needed. And especially in the division in the world politically that we're experiencing right now. And that's tied into the pandemic too, because the pandemic has become political. And so, which is, a whole other conversation. Maybe we'll have in season 3. Yes, we will have this in season 3. We just talked about that. And then we had our friend Danielle Schroyer with us, and that was just such a fun conversation. She's in Texas, and she's a spiritual director, former pastor, holder of hard things for people. And she just really helped us remember that one of the hard parts about everything is we have no good grown-ups in the room helping us. And in trauma and in really, really hard crisis, that's what we're looking for. And so the lack of leadership that we have just on a national level, some states have a little bit better than others, and that, we have pretty decent leadership in Colorado, but we're part of the United States. So that toll, I think she really helped us honor how hard that is. Mm-hmm. And that was really good for me. There was something about hearing those words. And then she talked about one sustaining word, an intention, and using that word. And it's interesting because I'll talk about it when we process, but I had one, and that was that thing, like if you could have something that could help anchor you instead of all the things, if you could channel into one and you'd be willing to change it, because someday it might be different, or the week it might be different. Then our friend Sharon Saul was with us. She's a longtime friend of the Refuge. She used to be part of our community a long time ago. She's in Seattle, Washington. She's a therapist up there. And I love what she shared just about kind of back to the basics, and that just those basic things about eating, sleeping, drinking, drinking water.
Good clarification.
Yeah, sorry, good clarification. And just remembering those, breathing, again, the power of breath that came through in almost all of them, but she really emphasized that, and kind of that clearing out that we need to do to last over the course of this really ongoing, radical shift in how we move in the world. And then our friend Father Scott Jenkins was with us from Celtic Way. here in Denver. And, the focus of just remembering how are we each, regardless of our resources, that are very different. Everyone is different in this category, but how are we going to engage with the pandemic and a piece of using nature, see nature, getting outside, making sure that our eyes were opened to beautiful, simple things. Was a piece of that. Then our friend Kay Bruner, she's a therapist in Texas, and that was so fun because I didn't know her personally before. She was connected to Joe, and that was just such a good one for me. Just sharing hard stories of grief in our families, but she just talked about hope. And hope is easy to talk about and flurry around, and the reality is that it's dangerous to hope, and it's really hard to have it when doesn't mean that the circumstances are going to be better. And so really talking about that deeper thing and wrestling with hope in the middle of the pandemic and our real lives intersecting with the pandemic at the same time. And then this was 2 weeks ago, but we had fun with the Enneagram. That was really fun. And we talked about Enneagram and pandemics and the 9 types. And then some things that we could engage with through those lenses and ways that we could maybe practice a healthier way, maybe some of the feelings that we were feeling and whatnot. And that was a super fun project for me because I sat down with a blank piece of paper, a little grid, because I have used some of those for some other things that I've done related to the Enneagram, but I just erased everything except for the numbers and then made the little prompts on the side and purposely did it that way because I don't want to accidentally plagiarize or glean something from somebody else. So I just did it off the top of my head. And I had so much fun doing that. And then Joe looked at it and she got some good feedback and we made a few adjustments on a couple of the things. And I really enjoyed thinking about that. And my favorite part of that one was just getting a lot of feedback. People really liked finding themselves in it or finding people that they were in relationship with in it, and how to keep being healthier and healthier. So whew, that is 9 amazing things that we did over the last 10 weeks.
So good. I loved that Enneagram episode just because I get to talk to you for a long time about something that I really like with someone I really love. So that's
so fun. I loved it.
But yeah, I think just listening to that all again, the thing that sticks out to me is kind of the 2 threads for me, I think, are again with the self-compassion and then the tiny habits and kind of weaving those together, because all of the different things that we talked about with our friends were all small things. It's remembering to drink water, remembering to eat nourishing food, to create a word that sustains, a mantra or some sort of phrase that can carry you and remind you of what's really true and the really real things that are going on. All of these are tiny little things, but they're so hard to remember to do.
So true.
Yeah, I think Valerie said it in season 1, but we often think that that has to be a huge force that comes when everything feels so overwhelming. We feel like it has to be just a ginormous thing to combat that. But actually, it's those small things that can make a huge shift, and just those tiny things can actually make a vast difference. And so, yeah, for someone who's kind of very highly self-critical, it's really good for me to remember just the tiny habits and the tiny habit of self-compassion, the tiny habit and they add up over time. And getting outside, I think that's just all these small things, but really working them into being part of our rhythm of life, and that's what's going to sustain us over the long haul here. And things are going to get harder and in the fall for a lot of reasons, but to be able to start to weave those things in to regular rhythm is a challenge to me. And it's just good to remember all that. And yeah, I think Kathy always says, when you go outside, look up. And that's been in my heart this week too, is just remembering to look up. And I think a lot of those habits and those practices can help us look up, and get that perspective that we're part of something bigger that was here before we were here and will be here after we're gone. And that that can actually bring a bit of perspective that even if the empire of the United States crumbles, empires rise and fall. I know it sounds blasé.
It's the beginning of time.
It's the beginning of time. Empires rise and fall. And we look up at the stars and the moon and at the sky, and we look at the trees and we see these things that are beyond us. It can help remind us that it's going to be all right in some capacity. Maybe not, won't feel great, but something will be all right. And I don't understand that exactly, but I know I get comfort from that.
Yeah, I just love that reminder. And I had told you earlier, but I'll say it again because Jose and I were up in the mountains and we laid on the deck and just looked up at the stars on Friday night. And we hadn't done that in a long time. We had a lot of smoke here. There's been a lot of things, but the truth is we just haven't really looked up. And there was something about it, and we were just in awe. And I remember laying there and thinking, don't rush. There's nothing I really need to do in this moment. Just notice this and be present and be here now as best you can. And just take what you can get. And out of everything, if I was kind of summarizing my takeaways, and I really like looking back because you remember how much goodness, and these are some really amazing people sharing simple truths that feel like a lot of information, but when you just glean a little bit, I mean, they really are, it really is helpful stuff, and it all looks different for each of us, but I think it's the being careful of not trying to do everything and make it all fit and this isn't head work. This is soul work. We're in a crisis in the world and we are trying to navigate that. And so what do? We kind of get quieter, a little quieter, even in the middle of the chaos, which is possible. And that's free. That's free. Doesn't cost anything. We can all do it no matter our circumstances and begin to cultivate inside us what we need for us. Everyone's wired differently. So not everybody necessarily wants to look at the stars, and that's okay. We're not saying that's the thing to do, but the thing to do is to find what does that and then practice it. And have something, kind of out of everything for me, it was having something to anchor into, some rhythms and some routines. And I had started this before the pandemic, but I think I mentioned it in one of the episodes of just taking all my vitamins every day. And it sounds so dumb, but the truth is before then I just didn't. I mean, I did here and there and I tried to, but just going, I have to stay healthy during this season as I can, as possible. And so making that be a part of my day and I pass them sometimes and I'm like, oh gosh, it's a pain in the ass. I got other things to do. And because I kind of made that little teeny intention, and then there actually are 7 things with little dates, just like old people with big letters, that I'm really thankful for that. And it kind of has been this reminder. There's this little thing that I can put in there. And when Danielle was here, she made us kind of think of a word, and it was, I don't know, now it's been 5 weeks ago or something, but the word that I had was summer. And it was really significant to me because this is my season and COVID has made it hard. And but there was something, and now I'm ready to switch the word. I kept the same word for this many weeks now because I needed to stay anchored in summer. And now I've got to switch. I'm not saying the word's going to be fall. I'm not quite ready for that, but I know, and that's what I love. I don't have to just make it be, I can make it what feels right, what I need. And but that has really helped me kind of stay present in summer.
Mhm.
in COVID. It's not pretending COVID doesn't exist. It does. But living into some of the values that I have and some of the space that I have related to summer and not getting caught into what's next. It just really helped me. Simple thing, one word.
Yeah.
And free. All this is free. I just want to keep saying that. We don't have to pay a ton of money. I value it. I do pay money for therapy, and I'm grateful for it. It's helped me last in this season of grief more than ever. But I also want to acknowledge that these are things that are accessible for all people, and that we can find what tool helps us in our own story. And then the last thing I'll say is just then be gentle with ourselves when we don't do it.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not a race, it's not a competition, it's not a sign of value or worth as human beings. It's just ideas that'll help us, strengthen us. And so we are humans, and we're not going to be able to nail it, and we're going to struggle, we're going to stumble, and we're going to fall, and we're going to mess it up, and do things that aren't good for ourselves or other people, and we're going to get up the next day and try again. And I think that that's really important in this story.
Mhm. Yeah, the phrase that came to mind when you were talking is just like the tyranny of the urgent. And it just feels like right now with, school starting and elections coming up and just political unrest and a pandemic, and it's just like urgent, 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 urgent. And like to say no to that. Like there are things that are important and urgent, especially around social justice issues. And we have to like recognize that we can't fix all of everything, and to just center. And kind of what I'm hearing you say of just like taking that time to just to lay on the deck, and when that urge comes to like, wait, I don't actually have to be anywhere tonight, to find those spaces where that you can say no to that tyranny of the urgent, and actually remind yourself that the world will go on, and your needs are important as well. And so yeah, so that's kind of what as we're looking into the fall, what we're thinking is we might shift towards doing through October. We're just going to try a little different thing, that rather than having a weekly mental health Mondays plural, we'll do a mental health Monday in October, and then have some sort of conversation either with Kathy and I, or Kathy and I and someone else, and record that and have people watch it. And then we'll have a gathering of some sort on Zoom to talk about what people got from that. So I'll still have discussion questions, but we're hoping to have some sort of interactive element. So we're still kind of assessing out what that would look like, but any other things to say about that, Kat?
Yeah, no, I think there'll be both. So that'll be fun. So for those of you that just like to put on your headphones and walk or listen while you're doing something and just aren't interested in participating, no problem. Just keep doing that. But for those that want to enter in and just be able to process it and gather some strength for the month, we're just going to experiment in October. I think it'll be the second Monday. That's our plan right now. You can look out for it, and we'll make sure and let people know that they've got a chance to listen and be together, because we were just talking beforehand, this is going to be our life now for this season. And so, we're glad we did it when we did it, but maybe now we need it more than ever. But the weekly is a lot because people are juggling school and work and reality. And so I think the monthly rhythm is going to be better for us for this next season. And then we'll reassess after a few months. But one thing that we do know is that we have to have places to be as healthy as we can in a really hard thing for a long time. And so that is important. There is no like normal coming. There's not. Yeah. It's a new something. And what does that look like? And how do we not master it? How do we not sink? And how do we do it in as loving of a way towards ourselves, towards the people we're in relationship with, towards our neighbors, as possible. So I think that that's what we're going to try and focus on.
Yeah. I asked about maybe 2 or 3 months into the pandemic, I contacted some of my friends who grew up in slums in Asia. And I was like, how do you cope with this craziness? Because they grew up in a world that was very uncertain, just a lot of pain and suffering, and then also just crazy leadership that was unstable. And a couple of the things that they shared with me were just gathering with friends as like one of the most important things, and sticking with your community, because they're the people that will help you remember what is important and remember the truth of things, because we just lose it. And then yeah, just taking time to rest and other things like that. So they're it's just, I feel like if my friends who grew up in slums can do this, like we can do this. So this is a whole new thing for most Americans, this long-term instability and suffering. But just remember that people all over the world, this is their life all the time, their entire life. And so we're learning new skills, but we can do it. We can do it. And we have each other. We're not alone. And our community is strong. And so we can get through this, and not even through it. We can do this. In it, we're in it. And so we can be in it together, and we can make it.
I love that reminder. It's so helpful to not have this perspective, but to have this perspective. And the one thing I'll just add is that if for different people listen, we never know exactly who is. And so if you are out there and you are feeling that lack of community and connection in the way that you need right now, just know the refuge is here. And this is something that somehow people can find attachment here in whatever way that works, to be with some people who are slogging through and trying to be as honest as we can, but also be buoyed in hope. And not a false hope, but like this real, like in the middle of it all hope. And that we can draw from each other, we can borrow it from each other, and we can strengthen each other. And that our deepest desire is to embody as best we can, moving in the world in a healthy way in a very unhealthy situation. And that's not easy to do. But like you said, we can do it, and we are doing it. And now let's keep doing it. So thank you I want to say this about the other episodes all the way through season 1. The discussion questions or reflection questions are so good. Joe writes those, and I was taking a peek. I always try to, and they're really good. So if you're just now listening and you're like, I'm going to go back, just go back and just glance at them. Even if there was just, you thought about one in a more intentional way, or you knew someone else listened, or you just asked a question to a friend, that's what we want, is just any kind of engagement that works. So season 2 is fun. We want to say an extra thank you to all of our friends who contributed. It was a gift to us, their time, their wisdom, their stories, their journey, that they're in the trenches just like us. And we'll just get this out to everybody. We'd love to hear any reflections. If you have something that was a takeaway, I will say, as facilitators, it's always hard not to get responses, and we're not expecting responses, but it helps us. It does. It helps us. And so if you're willing to just say in the comments or something, here's what I gleaned, or this was good for me, or I'm listening, it really helps us. And we will work on monthly Mental Health Monday with no S in October, and more details to come.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited. All right. That's it. End of season 2. Bam.
It's a wrap.
All right. Bye, friend.
All right. Bye.